Like I said, this year, the reason I wasn't at QueryCon was just because I had a recon right after it. And I had, at the time, a 17-month-old daughter. And so traveling is just really tough. So, like, I try to not leave my wife, single-handed against the toddler as frequently as I can. So I'm sorry I wasn't there, y'all. I really, really am.
Yeah,
truly. But it sounded like Teddy did you all well. I know, but Ted's more than enough. You don't need me if you've got Ted.
I can tell you that each year they get a little older. The traveling without them just changes.
Oh, it's getting easier, I think, because she's getting more self-sustainable. It's a little bit easier for her to help mom out around the house.
My child got a little easier at 3 than he was at 1 for my partner. But as he's now 4, he's really unhappy when I leave town.
I'm dreading the days when she asks me not to leave. I'm going to be screwed.
Yeah. One day, Gideon introduced his mom to the classes. This is Catherine, my mom. She never leaves me.
Well, that's a bad place to be, man.
Anyhow, Mike, you wanna lead? I'll take notes, or
sure. So, does anyone remember like the last Hacktoberfest that we did for osquery? I think it might have been like 2017.
Yeah, I remember.
Nick probably remembers. So I thought maybe that would be an interesting thing to try doing again to encourage some collaboration from the community. But what kinds of criteria did you use when you decided which was a Hacktoberfest label or which was an issue that you
man, all of them. We just labeled everything because again, the goal was to just encourage involvement and to try, because you'll get people who just had a small bug fix or even like documentation things. I mean, if it was just like fixing one word in the comments or something, we would try to push back like, hey, could you maybe do more, like find more comments to fix? But we were pretty liberal with the tags, and I never got any feedback from Dropbox or any of the folks who ran it. Like they were super excited to just have involvement. So they didn't care. They were just like, whatever you guys think is healthy and appropriate, like go bananas. And they had a lot of swag to give away. So I honestly, I would kind of encourage you guys to do the same. Like try not to be stingy about it. Be like really welcoming and open and like try to just get people involved because we had good luck. Yeah, sorry.
Based on the kind of the state of things, what if we, instead of labeling issues, we label PRs? We have a lot of outstanding PRs. Ones we like best, we can Hacktoberfest label those. And if the original authors are available, they can get back in it. And if they're not, we can, check out their branch and push to it.
Yeah. Sorry, I think they had to be PRs. I think that was kind of the focus of it. Like I think we would label issues as Hacktober to try to be like, hey, if you do this as a PR, we'll slap the Hacktober. I could be wrong on that though. Like it might have changed how that worked.
So Mike, I think that the thing you're alluding to is that we have this huge PR backlog and we'd love to get them evaluated and merged. But I think my guess is that labeling those as Hacktoberfest is not going to have the desired effect within the Hacktoberfest project, because if a random person says, "Oh, I want to get this PR into mergeable shape," they're not going to look for it via that tag. We're crossing idioms.
On Steph's note, and sorry to be talking so much on that, but it might be time, y'all, to just be ruthless and start closing things out. And if a PR hasn't been touched in a while, just be like, hey, we're going to capture the essence of this PR in an issue, slap a Hacktoberfest label on it, and we're going to close this thing out because it's stale. And just be really brutal about cleaning up the PRs. I don't know.
So
maybe it's time.
I think that's a different conversation that we could have, because I also think, some of them we may just be able to fix internally, right? Like there's a handful of them where rebase, maybe fix 2 lines of code and merge it, right? And some of this is just our own, what is our intent with this PR and its original contributor who might be long gone.
So there's a label for stale, right? Or needs response.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can make an effort to give them a chance to respond, because I think a lot of the authors just didn't know that it's time now to rebase and that we're open for business, that sort of thing.
Okay, so sorry, I'm bouncing. We've got some of these things in different parts of our little pseudo agenda here, so I'm trying to take notes.
But while you're typing, yeah, it seems like there is some sort of GitHub discoverability for projects if they use the Hacktoberfest label. Is that right?
I think it's very low. Like you can search GitHub for labels, and they basically
I'm pretty sure
use this label.
They have a landing page for Hacktoberfest that they're basically just doing that search on the tag for the Hacktoberfest issues and PRs, but it is kind of like a centralized portal where they're kind of funneling everybody. So yeah, I don't know if it's any increased. I think it's increased visibility. Like I think it's worth still labeling the hell out of everything.
Okay.
I mean, is there a reason not to just either label like all of the good first issue things or something even broader?
Do it. Just just go crazy with that tag, man.
All right.
Speaking of labeling, any update on GitHub triage? I could help out with labeling and stuff as well.
I have no update on that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was given the GitHub triage permission.
No, you were given the commit access.
Oh, you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Then never mind. I noticed that I had been. So I don't know if I have the email anymore.
Many things happened, Mike. I'm reasonably unless this all changed since I looked last, and it would only have been Teddy that changed it.
Yeah, well, I've only used my powers for good, so just triaging issues. Okay, so I guess the Hacktoberfest thing, we're going to move on from that.
I mean, it sounds like we should just kind of label a whole bunch of stuff.
And the Twitter account is controlled by Teddy, right?
I think I opened a foundation ticket for that.
That should be correct. I believe Ted was the last one. If Ted's probably going to say it's me, though. Between the two of us, we can get access to the Twitter account.
It's also possible to deputize people from other Twitter accounts.
Is it?
Yeah, we do that for Trail of Bits. So I have like a personal Twitter account that I almost never use. And I can control from that. I can log in and then switch accounts to Trail of Bits and make a tweet.
Can you mention that in the foundation issue tracking the social media stuff? Because like Ted and I have gone back and forth on this for years. Like we always lose the password, or one of us can't get it because of the two facts. So like it'd be so nice if we could do that.
Nick, what's your GitHub username?
Muffins.
Thank you. I'm poking that now.
Yeah.
Just muffin, not muffins?
No, muffins, plural. I actually cut an issue in the foundation for the Keybase, or I think I mentioned the Keybase. Something like that. I was commenting in it. Yeah.
Yep. But the autocomplete doesn't do the right thing for non... Yeah.
Gotcha.
I posted a link to an article announcing this shared Twitter feature, but I don't think it requires TweetDeck anymore. I don't actually use a Twitter client, so I know it doesn't.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. Does anyone want to take on labeling a bunch of stuff as Hacktoberfest?
Yeah, you can let me do that. I'll do that.
Cool. And I'll update this GitHub ticket about getting Twitter access for more of us, and I'll assume that Nick or Teddy can jump on that.
Okay.
So since we sort of just touched on it, we've got the PR backlog as kind of a thing.
So the question of ruthlessly closing them, I think we should allow people time to respond. give them I don't know, a window. What do you think is fair? 2 weeks?
A window is a good idea. Yeah, give like 2 weeks and be like, hey, if you don't update this or respond in 2 weeks, we're going to close it or something to that effect.
Yeah, seems good.
Yeah, I agree. You should like.
Wasn't there a bot? Sorry.
No, what were you saying?
There was a bot previously that would like close issues and PRs that hadn't been touched in a month or so. I think osquery or something.
Yeah, osquery.
This was way back.
Right. We might have killed that just because, like, I mean, we ourselves got into a state, right, where like it was there'd be times where we just couldn't keep up. So like we'd fall behind, and we wouldn't want the osquery bot to kill things because it was a work in progress, and we just hadn't had time to get to it. I definitely think there's a balance there, but a bot might be worth considering. I've always hated bots like that just because it can be too aggressive, and it's just like, especially with a project like this where you're working on it in your free time, it might be a month before you get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want to discourage people either.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm taking this down as that the general consensus is that a bot might be too aggressive and off-putting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think I like the suggestion that we sort of flag people, we give people a window, and I would maybe suggest that we say, hey, this was really great, thanks. We're working through our backlog, and if you don't reply, we will either close it or take it over. Because I kind of want to give us the ability to take their contributions and use it for whatever we want, assuming they've signed off on the Facebook CLA. We're in a tougher spot if they haven't signed off on any CLAs, but I think as long as they signed any of the CLAs, we can probably take their contributions.
Yeah.
I think we also can have a very ad hoc process where, like, if we write ourselves some text, paste it into a bunch of places, then it's not like we have to close these issues ahead of time. We can just kind of close them whenever we want or work with them. Like, I feel like just asking users is the key of it. One of the other things that's come up is, like, and Mike wrote it down here, is whether we should spend office hours times reviewing open or active PRs.
I think we had a spot in the previous format where we would discuss about it, and if there are blockers or special questions that needs some more attention. But yeah, the long ones would end up back on Slack.
Yeah, it was more manageable when we had like a dozen, but now we have too many open PRs to really dedicate one office hours to them.
Oh no, well, it was the contributor making the PR that would
if they're present. Yeah, that's true. If they're here.
So maybe I think we just said if someone would like to show up and talk about a PR, we always welcome that, and we will always shunt that earlier in the chat list even. Or earlier in the agenda.
Yeah, would be nice.
Well, speaking of specific PRs, Mike, you stuck PR 5789 down.
Oh, that wasn't me. Might be my PR though.
Yeah, we wanted to give it a bit of attention.
Yeah. So yesterday I was working on sales SOWs all night. So yeah, I can get back to this. If we don't need to split it, I can address all of Seth's changes and we can move on it.
It mostly looked pretty inoffensive to me.
It was a lot of nits, and then like 2 small substantial things, like changing things that were factually needed to be accurate. Next time I do that, I'll split them into, theme.
Okay, well, other people should read it. I'm just going to delete that off the agenda.
Yeah, it's not. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Sort of still in the broad category of outreach. Looks like Teddy said that he'd love more C++ developers in the project.
Yeah, everyone would.
Well, of course. Yeah. But what does he mean? Does he mean Facebook's hiring, or does he mean he wants more contributors?
External contributors.
He wants more external contributors. Facebook's hiring, but like, yeah, it's unrelated. I think Ted's always said this, right? Like Ted's always wanted more people who aren't afraid to do good C++ code. And it's like, it can be really, I mean, you guys know, right? Like it can be tough to find people who aren't afraid of it.
Has anybody spoken about osquery at a non-osquery conference recently? Like,
I think the Upticks folks gave some talk about it recently. Like I saw them at Black Hat. They were rocking their swag and all that stuff, but that's all I know.
might be a good way to do outreach too.
I think so. I think the best thing that we can do is make the project interesting and attractive to more people.
What about like the Mac admin Slack or some other community like that? Has anyone, I mean, I know there's some crossover here. Has anyone seen any announcements there or made any announcements?
Collide is generally active, as are some people who aren't directly involved in osquery. So usually someone who I don't recall offhand mentioned that osquery 4 came out.
Yeah, there's some active people, but it's more sysadmin types. I'd say they're more likely to do extensions in Python or Go than contribute to C++. So they'll get a good tutorial and how to write a table in C++ might push people over the edge.
Yeah, it's like a user base, not a developer base. I get it.
And hopefully, when the 4.0 branch is stabilized, we at AT&T can get back in, but we're still on 3.3.1, and hopefully soon we'll start migrating.
We have your contributions to our fork from earlier this year, and you said that you don't have, I guess, the time right now to migrate those, but we might. So I guess you're still interested in seeing those migrated, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay. That's our Hacktoberfest, is getting our PRs updated.
We should probably prioritize the things that are blocking existing deployment from upgrading to the new version. If there are huge issues that you would like to mention or tag.
Well, the things that are already on the milestone, right?
Yeah, there are many things in milestone already. Maybe Alex can help out and look if there are some things missing.
Yeah, I'd certainly love to hear if there are major deployments that have not moved to v4 and what we can do to help that.
I can only speak for myself, and that is I've just been watching the commits and the changes, and it looks like there's still quite a bit of flux as far as the build goes. And then, obviously you have to do our own testing on it.
I mean, from what I've seen go by, most of the changes are really somewhat inconsequential. Like the build is getting better. If you get a build, then it built. There's not a lot of core mechanics moving around.
I'd also really encourage you, if you're concerned or you feel like there is flux in the state of the builds for osquery generically, please call it out. I know that I'm not super receptive in Slack anymore. I've just had a lot of trouble finding time, but cutting issues, bringing it up to the core foundation, I don't mean to speak for the core council, but I know that there's a general desire to have us appear stable again, which I have confidence that the product is stable again, but I don't know how the rest of the community feels about that. In my opinion, things have never been better with osquery, and I'm really excited about where it's at.
Yeah, I mean the activity is starting to die down. I'll know when Stefano is not committing anymore. Then it's solid, right?
Well, we continue to use all of Stefano's time to help the builds and test issues. So it'll be a continual process that he's involved.
From where I sit, I'm with Nick on this. I think that we're as stable as we ever were, and like the builds keep improving, but there's no reason that anyone really needs to consider it unstable for that.
Our goal is to make it better, to improve the test case coverage beyond what it was in 3x.
So maybe that sort of hits another interesting question, like what goes into perceptions of stability, and are there people who perceive osquery to be unstable?
If the releases are scheduled and predictable, then I think that goes towards that goal. If they happen every time each month, every other month is a release or something like that, that's it's something you can count on. Whereas if users see like hotfix updates go up a lot, then they're like, uh-oh. Kind of like iOS 13.
See, I look at iOS 13 as a testament of like, I feel like you're always going to be in that state. Like that state is always going to be a potential, right? Like you're never going to be in this state where everything is perfect and stable and robust. And if you are in that state, in my opinion, it means like you're not iterating on new functionality or new capability of the product a lot. I feel like osquery still has so much untapped potential for source or for signal or for functionality. But like, honestly, I mean, like, we're in a really stable place with 4, but like, if you start, so a good example, a good testament to this might be Windows ETW, right? Like if you introduce ETW traces to get event tables in Windows, that's going to be a really big feature, right? Like, and that might modify some really core components of eventing frameworks in osquery, right? Like, so you might see us hit this plateau of stability only to hit heavy amounts of instability to recover, right? Like that's just my personal views on software. That's like, I'm not a software engineer, I'm a security engineer, so I'll stop talking now.
It does make sense, though. I agree with you.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think it's a matter of balance, obviously. I think we at least ought to restore what tests have been present before, at least those.
Sure. No, I mean, to be clear, sorry, we're in an unprecedented state, right? Because like after everything that the team has recovered from, this is a really messed up place. But I'm kind of looking forward. So absolutely agree that we need more test coverage in every way.
I mean, so things like test coverage, though, are not something that's easily visible to end users. So like, do end users care? Does like a random person, like no one I've ever talked to says, whoa, osquery, it only has 70% test coverage. I don't trust that. I've never heard that, ever.
Right. Well, no, we just saw we just worked on a project where all of the tests assumed one AWS region was up, and no one ever discovered it for years. So yeah, these things are totally invisible to everybody, but
it's more what people are saying, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it just goes back to the little bit of the outreach, right? Like, are there places we can be talking up osquery, and are there places we could be talking about osquery, or generally recounting cool stories and getting people interested in the project?
Where can I go to read about the new event framework in the 4x branch?
What new event framework in the 4x branch?
It's the one that's
the EV2.
EV2. Let's see, is it linked from the
EV2, I think. EV2.
Yeah, but it wasn't merged yet.
I believe that was in the changelog that it was.
It was?
I think it was an experimental. I don't know.
This was one of Facebook's contributions during the refactor, right? It's not a replacement to the old one. It's like an option, right?
Well, it was meant to be a replacement.
It like hasn't become that replacement yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a parallel eventing framework, I think.
Were there any commits? I only remember a blueprint.
I think it was
Yeah,
part of the
same.
original experimental branch, so we got it by default.
PR
So there's a small part
5401.
for the eBPF probes. I'm not sure how big it is, but I also remember some kind of pull request implementing the full thing.
PR 5401.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's described as rough. I don't know what Facebook's plan is for that long term.
I actually have a question about this to everyone here. I think that we ended up having the Rocksby database because we care about the journaling feature it has, so that we do not lose data if osquery gets restarted or crashes for any reason. The new event framework described in the blueprint would allow subscribers and publishers to bypass the database, which means that we would no longer keep data stable on disk if something happens. So this would be against the initial goal. And what is the story behind the new refactor? Because I know that I realized that Rocksby can impact performances, especially in Windows. As it is right now, it is hitting database because there is no batching support. So it is rather heavy right now. But yeah, we can be confident that if we push something on the through the eventing framework, it is there. We cannot lose it. Is this something we would want to keep, or are we interested more in keeping osquery more lightweight?
I think that's a really big conversation that should probably happen in the context of that blueprint.
Yeah.
I'd also say I suspect work in EV2 is probably a relatively large release. That's a thing that we should think about road mapping and either releasing as a major point release or even new release.
Is Facebook relying on it? If we tear it out, is that going to cause issues for them?
So we don't use the external version of osquery anywhere internally. There's one deployment that I know of that uses the external open source version. It's in a completely disjointed deployment, and they're actively trying to move to the one that we've used. Since things have forked and everybody's gone their separate ways, the software engineers who focus on osquery internally have done so much stuff different to it. So like I wouldn't take us into account in future decisions. The people who are involved in the small council, like we still care about it, and we still use, like I have osquery installed on my home computers, so I still care about it. But like, try not to think about Facebook, the company, in these types of decisions.
So where can we see the commits and additions that they've made? Since I think everybody has to commit their changes publicly, right? Because of the licensing.
I have no idea. We need to get.
I mean, Facebook,
not anymore.
I don't think so. Facebook does have the copyright and is able to change the license at will.
This was kind of a hard fork. This was like most of the stuff has been removed. They deleted almost all of the code that I contributed.
So I mean, I've got a question there, right? Like, I know Facebook. I've always known Facebook has some internal fork, right? And like at this point, I think we're considered the upstream, and y'all are considered a fork, and that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is very new. This is since the inception of the foundation. They didn't do anything until the foundation was established, and then they.
It's fine. This is not criticism.
Their own way.
Sure. The question is, like, I know y'all do good work that's sometimes aligned with what we're trying to do. So what's the chance of seeing, maybe you guys finished EV2 and run it internally and called it something else.
Sure.
Right? Would that ever make it out to us? Or like sort of as these core systems diverge, there's less and less chance of pulling together?
Absolutely. And this is, I also kind of want to address Packet Zero's point on this a bit too, that like, I don't work on the internal product anymore. I know that Ryan was supposed to be a part of the small council and like sit in on these types of meetings and discussions. So like he would be the one to ask. The last I heard, they still have the intent to try to sync things back up periodically if they had good feature sets. I have no idea what the status of that is. All that I see from them right now is that they're still trying to get to a point of stability. Like that's all that they care about is reliability and stability. So like, all that I see are like status updates from that team every now and again. I work more on the open source version of osquery than I do on the internal.
So is it Ryan Wilson that I should get in touch with if I want to see how we could sync up?
Yes. I mean, unless you've pinged Ted, Ryan is the one who leads that team. And he knows all of the state. Like, I have no idea where they're at with anything.
Okay.
But he'd be the one to ask.
Yeah, he's never quite engaged with us.
That's not even a little surprising.
Well, as I've said several times, and I'll happily say again, I'd love to do things in a way that lets Facebook contribute back to open source. I don't know that it's particularly a priority, but if we can make it easy, anything we can do.
I am a Facebook employee, and I like to contribute to this project. Ted is the same boat. I don't contribute as much as I want to, but that's for different reasons.
But it would be challenging, right, with the new monorepo kind of, I don't know, separate.
Oh, you mean contributing stuff back from internal? The problem is just that everything that they have done, I mean, you guys saw it. You all bore witness to this. It was the same thing where it was like all the changes they made were to make it more integratable with our internal frameworks. So even if we were able to, like what we would have to do in order to, I don't know if they've changed the eventing. I don't think they've changed the eventing system. They haven't done any, I don't know what they've been doing, but like if they had something brand new and shiny and cool that like the rest of the world could benefit on, they would have to decouple it from all of the internal systems before they were even able to like put it up for a pull request. Nothing that they're doing is, well, no, I don't think anything that they're doing is of the state that they couldn't share it back. But I also don't know how valuable it would really be to other companies. Because a lot of the, like I said, a lot of it, I think it's just reliability and stability stuff. I don't think they found, the bugs that they're finding was like deleting all of this, the scripting pipelines that I used for signing and for publishing the packages. Like all the stuff I used to ship externally, they've completely built a separate pipeline that integrates with auto build so they can do like nightly builds.
Yeah, and we're going to end up duplicating that. But
yeah,
like we have
the thing is,
divergent
like,
infrastructure.
Exactly. This took them like a month to tie it into our stuff, and we would have like the external community would have to use Azure or something, right? Like and have different pipelines set up for it.
I was hinting at like if Facebook internally found a security vulnerability, would they like share it and patch it on the open source version or no?
Wait, can you say that again? Sorry, you're saying like stability and reliability?
No, like a security exploit if you just found it by fuzzing.
If we found that kind of stuff through fuzzing, yes, that stuff would get shared back. I mean, that's Ted though, and Ted's all over that. Like Ted does this really actively. But the thing is, like, that was one of the reasons we wanted to move to Buck with the very initial fork. And as soon as we had that Buck fork down, we had all of our static analyzers and fuzzers running against the code base. So like we were able to find, I think he had a couple of PRs that he got really quickly through fuzzers, but we haven't had anything internally. Well, I guess I wouldn't know. You could ask Ted that. I haven't seen anything.
Is there any chance to just have, I mean, we would not require them to do any kind of grooming on the pull request. They could just, send us the patches and we could just integrate stuff.
What kinds of things are you hoping for though? Because like I said, like most of what they've done has been delete things, like add in custom integration. They haven't built any, well, if they have built new features, they've been really quiet about it. Their roadmap lately has just been on stability and like reliability of the product. Because they don't deem osquery as reliable right now.
Yeah, but I would imagine they made refactors again. So that's
Maybe.
what I care about.
I mean, again, this would be something that we'd have to hit up Ryan about, because like he would have a better idea if they've had any like refractors that had reliability concerns. The only things that I know I'm directly aware of in the code base was this guy that I worked with who was gutting a bunch of the code that I wrote for build and package.
I see.
So, I mean, I would really encourage you to like hit up Ryan if he's receptive and see if they've had stuff that would be worthy of syncing over. But
yeah, we'll try that.
Yeah.
Well, our aim was to stay as compatible as possible, and that's why we have kept back.
I know.
And I'm really sad that we are not able to work on the same code base.
Well, we were supposed to be. Your sadness is reciprocated. Like this isn't even my project anymore.
You know, for good or ill, it'll probably be different in 6 months. So
exactly. One thing that I did have along the lines of stability and reliability that I never got too far on was trying to build with Clang instead of Microsoft CL. And the reason we wanted that was so we could try to use the analyze address sanitizer.bat. It's like a component of the LLVM ASAN framework, but it was written for Windows. I had it working. Like, if people are interested in trying to explore that, I'm happy to share the documentation for like how far I got. The problem was so much of the third-party libraries weren't buildable with LLVM Clang on Windows. But like that, I think would be a better step in the direction of reliability and stability than anything we've done internally. Like, we got it hooked up for the Linux side. The Linux side is great. And I know that Ted has thrown our fuzzing frameworks at it, but like no one is looking at the Windows side of this. At least very few people. Or I know that there's a lot of people in this whole Slack community that are really addressed on it, but waiting for some good bugs there, man.
I'd say if you're up for throwing your notes into a ticket or an issue somewhere, right? I certainly also noticed that there's like this whole constellation of Clang sanitizing tools, and was like, I don't know, can we run these against osquery? Yeah,
we can, and we have. Like, a lot of that stuff we've run against the POSIX side or the Unix side of things, not POSIX, but it's very non-trivial to get it working on Windows.
Well, throw notes in a ticket.
Yeah. I'll try and spend some time in the next couple of days.
There's a little note here about Facebook and the osquery CLA.
I don't know how much I can help with that.
I don't know what the note means. I didn't write it.
What's the note?
Facebook
I think it's
making
related to the mailing address required, right? And
no, I doubt it, but I don't know. This note says Facebook is making progress on signing the osquery company CLA. This was blocked for a few months. Follow-up is manually syncing changes. To do, Ted.
Gotcha.
I have no idea.
Maybe changing the copyright?
Yeah, could be. Maybe.
So signing so they can then allow us to change copyright?
I suspect this means that Facebook has not signed the company CLA because like there's some legal negotiation things. But I'm reading exactly the words written, so I don't know. I'm just going to write down that I had an agenda note that none of us knows what it means. It's probably a thing Teddy wrote, and extensions SDK. Progress on restoring the extensions SDK.
We have a pull request up for restoring it. It is currently under review. It also restores support for extension bundling. This is pretty much what we had before the refactor.
This was, I think, kind of what we said was like half of what we wanted to be in the next release. That and like cleaning up more of the build tooling.
Yeah, basically.
Are you getting reviews you need on this? Do you need stuff, or is this just like awesome? There's a PR up.
No, we already reviewing it. We are waiting for some changes. Shouldn't take long to merge it.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I asked if Akshay could come into this, but I guess he couldn't make it. He's the one who worked on that PR.
Since we're talking about the SDK, Seth, I remember at QueryCon we were talking with Jason at Collide about moving the Go SDK to a subrepo. It's probably time we do that.
I haven't talked to Jason at all about that in the last month, say.
Yeah.
So I cannot confirm what Collide is willing to do right now.
Okay. If you can ask him, I could take that on. I mean, it's licensed appropriately, so we could just take it, but it's if Collide wanted to,
I'll ask Jason about it. I think it would be better if we did it with blessing than hard forked it effectively.
Right. No, he was just amenable about it at QueryCon. So,
Any thoughts on the follow-up from removing the packs from the repo?
I haven't thought about it much since that ticket. One of the things, so I guess I did actually think about it a little bit. Sorry, let me start writing this down. Thanks for bringing it up. I think that is a pretty big one. To recap for people who were not following that incredibly large ticket, there's a huge sort of expectation mismatch around packs. Those of us who work a lot with osquery, generally in this Slack and in this meeting, think of the packs that we ship as being some interesting examples, but not really suitable to run in production. However, we have learned that a large number of people just run those packs as their entirety of their osquery configuration. This mismatch of expectations has resulted in some, I don't know, maybe confusion or maybe just non-ideal outcomes. So I opened up a Foundation ticket kind of capturing some succinct bits out of a macadmins thread and threw it out as somewhere for us to talk about. And it sounds like there's kind of one group of people that advocates we should remove the packs, and another group of people that sort of is like, whoa, well, these are what a lot of people use, we shouldn't do that. And kind of, to me, I think what we need to do is find a way to get more people engaged in maintaining them and to make that easier. I kind of am tempted to play with running them through, basically committing them somewhere in fleet cuddle format and sort of denormalizing them so that all the queries are individual, and then like some part of our release pipeline can basically just take the newest thing and build it and ship it. But I mean, I haven't written that down more formally, so I don't know. I'm wondering, it's a thing we could talk about.
So you're also suggesting that they are kind of unmaintained?
They are unmaintained.
Yeah.
I mean, I always was the big proponent of moving them out of the repo. If we can create another GitHub repo and just move them there, we can keep packaging them, which is, I think, where people depend on them, and put a deprecation date. Say by 5.0, we'll stop packaging them or whatever. And to start, if people want to maintain them, there's the direct link, and then the people who feel enthusiastic about them can keep maintaining them. And who knows, maybe they're much healthier by the time 5.0 comes out. We change our mind, but
Sounds good to me.
I don't know.
How big is it?
Sorry, go on.
I was just wondering how big is the query pack we ship?
probably about 1,000 queries, I would guess. A lot of them wrong, outdated.
Wow.
A lot of them are good examples, but to me, there's two things. One is osquery is really bad. Well, the project is really bad at educating people about, and newcomers especially, about how to use osquery. I think we need to make an effort to update the website and have a page of like a quick start. Sorry. And take some of the more useful queries for each platform and sort of like describe, how to use them and how to create your own and how to get to the schema docs and so on. So that part is really missing. And I think a lot of us are assuming the packs are the examples, but because there are no examples, people just end up using the packs, and some people go beyond that, but most people just use the packs and assume that their computer is secure, their company is secure just because they downloaded the official Facebook packs. And so that reputation does us more harm than good. And yeah, there's the people who will never use more than built-in packs. I'm kind of, I mean, it's nice that they have something, but being in the open source community, I see more people jumping into the free without understanding, the fact that it's free doesn't mean that it's, just as good as a commercial product. So the fact that it's available sometimes does more harm than good for certain people. If we can at least remove ourselves from that responsibility and hand it over to people who actually want to contribute to that and actually really care, then it would benefit the people who just blindly use them. And I do think there would show up a number of people who want to maintain them. Like Chris Long is a good example. He's been maintaining packs for his company, and so I'm putting them on GitHub. There's no reason he wouldn't contribute to these. But there's bigger questions, like with shipping packs, is like, how do you version them? How do you change a query for people who blindly just import them, because it's going to change the schema and it's going to change the logs that they rely on. The issue that triggered all of this is because Fleetsmith, a commercial company, is shipping the packs onto any customer that wanted them just blindly. And so there was some PR added query, which is kind of spewing a lot of false positives, and people open an issue being like, hey, this is spamming my alerts. And it's like, well, it's not really our fault, but yeah.
Does it make sense to scale down the query pack like a lot and just provide a small confined example that shows how to do a couple of things well, so people can build upon the...
I think we need to differentiate between what's a pack that you can download and run and get effective results, and what's an example. I think an example belongs on a page along with some text describing like why this particular query works the way it works, and educates the person towards making their own queries in the future and pointing them to the schema. But yeah, Nick, I don't know if you're still on the call. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. And
I am jiving with a lot of the things you're saying, Krub. We always kind of wanted to do that and like get things like extensions, query packs, like the extras part of osquery kind of like in its own thing for fostering. So like any moves in that direction I'd be really stoked on, because I don't know what you said about like people think that they download the Facebook approved pack and that they're like magically done with security. Like that has always been so true. So like getting us closer to a state where it's understood that if you pull down osquery or something like this, like your mileage may vary. Like, it's a loaded gun. Don't point it at yourself. Like, you've got to know how to deal with this thing correctly. And I think having fewer like stock examples in place might help that. I don't know. I don't know what the correct solution is here, but I've always really liked the concept of, like, packs were always that one thing that people could get into the project over. Like, maybe you were comfortable writing C++, but we'd be like, hey man, that's fine. Go read like some threat report and take the IOC and turn it into a query pack for people. It's like, maybe that's not a great query, fine, but it gets them involved in the community and they're able to like contribute something through a PR. So having a separate GitHub repo that's fostered by people who are really excited about intel and threat tracking, I think that's at least a viable candidate for a really good solution. And if it ends up sucking and it's like not good, you know, we at least picked a solution and we iterated. But that's always been my feelings on that.
So I might be the unpopular one, but I think this should merge with the never written query hub.
Sure.
Like, the thing I think I want to do, and I want to maybe play with it a little bit more, is just convert all of the packs into fleet kernel format and then just check them in that way, because that sort of splits the pack from the queries and lets them be tracked a little separately. I know fleet kernel format is a little bit of a vendor thing, but I think it's probably de facto-ish standard at this point.
Sure. I mean, I was just going to say, like, the pushback I would give on that, I like, so much of this project is raw and really, really low level, that like having it be in things that are more approachable, like, yes, it brings people to the project and it helps spawn engagement, but there's that cautionary tale, right? Of like, you're making it seem like this is really easy to do. And it's not. Like, doing a full osquery deployment in your environment, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of effort to do. Like, I almost don't want to give people the impression that this is a really easy thing to ship, because I want you to see the raw JSON. I want you to see, like, I want you to have the understanding of what query you're pushing to your fleet before you push it to your fleet. Like Chris Long, like, they're able to have really heavy and intense queries pushed to their production environment, but it's because they've architected frameworks for, like, allowing you, when you commit a new query to the production query packs, it canaries it to a test tier and it makes sure that your query isn't shit before it ships it to production, right? Like, it's that mindset of, like, you understand what this thing is that you're pushing to your fleet before you ship it. And having something in, like, I don't mean to detract what you're trying to do, Seth, because, like, if that sounds great and it sounds like it's going to be a way to get people pulled in, but I'm afraid that this project has been caught in such a step of, like, reel people in, but then those people never kind of go the next step on. Like, they get involved in the project and then that's it. They stop there and they say, this is going to a level that I'm not comfortable with, so I'm going to rely on others to take me further.
Well, I think that there are two pieces. There's at least two pieces, right?
Sure.
I'll say, so one of the things that I think is really important for us as a project, if we have any kind of repository for, like, packs or examples or whatnot, is to have them denormalized, because I don't think anyone can reasonably work with diffs or commit on a, production pack. Like, packs are artifacts of sets of queries. So I think the denormalization of those is actually really important for diffs and discussion about them.
Yeah, but so the problem that I have is, like, the way that we have done our deployments internally is where there is no pack. It's just like one massive flat JSON blob. And I freaking hate it. Like, it's so terrible. Like, to me, having the concept of a pack for, like, discrete zones of your environment, that's very appealing to me. Like, I want to have, just JSON blobs that are relevant to Windows MS SQL servers. Terrible example, but, like,
sure.
Those discrete
I think
components.
It's still a build artifact, though, because if you look at, like, Mac malware, right, or, like, evil Chrome extensions, right, like, I don't actually, like, I want if I imagine an evil Chrome extension thing, right, like, I want a pack that has every query I need, but I actually want to think about those as each thing, and I probably want it to be generated from a list of, hashes somewhere. So, like, I think about it as a build pipeline. Like,
sure.
I mean, the pack is an output.
Maybe I'm thinking about packs in a different way. Like, I've never really liked packs that focus on IOCs or saying, like, those specific types of, like, I would
thing.
What I mean to say is, like, I've always thought about packs as, like, I want a pack that is just generic operating system information for Mac OS. that means that I'm getting all my Chrome extensions back. I'm getting back, you know, what contents is in the user's downloads folder, what, like, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, that type of stuff that you're talking about, like the evil extensions, that's always, in my eyes, something that should be handled on the back end. Like, you should be doing your integrations and your pipeline matching somewhere else. But maybe that's the issue here, is like, what kind of context are we applying to packs? Because it seems like that varies.
Well, I mean, so when you talk about it that way, like, one of the things that I feel like I've seen a little bit as here at Collide, and seen as I talk to people who use osquery, is there's a lot of different ways people use osquery, right? Like, there's a group of people that use osquery to discover basic facts, like, give me the amount of memory on all these nodes. There's the people who use it as like a feed into an SIEM, right? Give me every Chrome extension that's installed, give me every process execution. And there's the group of people that are trying to extract like true-false signals. You know, like, does this machine have this infection? Does this machine have this infection? Like, risk score this machine. And there's probably other use cases, but, you know, the thing you described as packs is sort of like, you want a pack that feeds an SIEM, right? You want to say, like, this is everything I want to extract on macOS, do everything on the back end, which is not how everyone uses it, but not to say it's bad, right? Just...
No, I absolutely agree with you, right? Like, not every, I have that luxury, right? Because I have unlimited storage. I have an infinite SIM, right? Not everybody can say, give me all of the data from all of the inputs, right? You're absolutely right.
So it's, to me, a lot of these things, like, I could imagine shipping some example packs that looked like extract everything for a SIM, right? Like, maybe we call the packs that.
But man, it's almost like, I feel like this further reinforces the point of, like, have a separate repository or a separate community
we
around
should
which
definitely have a separate repository.
Yeah, but it's because everybody uses osquery in such a different flavor. But, like, having those packs stored in the primary repo and shift with every deployment of osquery, it's almost like we're encouraging people that this is the way that you should use it, and that's not at all the case, right? Like,
yeah, sort of dovetails into a conversation I know Grub and I have had in the past, which is like, what is the point of osquery? How do people use it? What would a quick start look like?
Yeah, that conversation, we have that a lot. Is osquery actually a security agent?
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're mostly in agreement about creating a new repo and moving the packs to there.
So would people be, let me straw poll people, right? I think we're in agreement that we should create a separate repo. Would people rather see a repo that had them checked in as packs, or that had them checked in somewhat denormalized as queries plus stitching to generate a pack as a build artifact?
I think we still want to, at least till we need to give people a deadline and say we're not going to ship them in the package anymore, but we can't just do that.
I'm happy to ship the build artifacts. I just want to view them a bit as build artifacts, not as like generated code, not as source.
Yeah, I mean, having split up would be nice, because then you could profile each query individually and write some tooling around, write a CI that does that and all that. But it makes it very hard for people to track them. So I guess having a same thing like a nightly build or something that auto submits them to the same repo as a compiled version. It's possibly a good idea. I don't know. That brings up the question that I was going to bring up, which is, do we move them over, or do we just start over and put some rules about like adding like some criteria around what it means to add a query? Like, does it have to pass some sort of CI? Is there like a minimum resource utilization that it's going to have? If it's an IO,
I think we move them over
to be treated differently. Like
I think we move them over, possibly with some amount of editorializing about some of them, because one of the things that really resonated with me from seeing that MacAdmins thread, right, is that one, this might have been Charbel's comment, like shipping packs is very much a batteries included approach. And like one of the other things that I saw was basically like, this is an incredibly impactful way to meaningfully hit security for a lot of endpoints, right? Like a lot of people don't do anything but enable these packs.
But it doesn't hit security for them. It just misleads them into thinking they have something.
That's the balance. So how can we do better?
Well, I don't think it's our job to do better. I think it's our job to differentiate between what's out there and what's, I don't know.
I don't think we got anything else to say, so I would encourage us to go yammer in that ticket. 2 other agenda items. We are now past 2 p.m. though, so I don't know if anyone's got to duck off or if people are up for continuing to talk.
Oh yeah, I actually have to take off, y'all. Thanks for the time, though.
Thanks for being here. Please,
yeah, man,
come often.
No, I will. I plan to start attending these again. Sorry I've been absent for so long.
Oh, we miss you. You're great.
Thank you, Nick. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
So the other 2 items on here are build infrastructure and GitHub reviews. I'm going to stick GitHub reviews first because I think that one's comparatively fast. There's a proposal to disable the dismiss stale pull request approvals when new commits are pushed.
Yeah, that feature's kind of broken anyway, at least usability-wise.
I like that feature. So I'm going to be the voice of dissent.
Okay.
I think what don't you like?
It slows people down. I'm not the one who requested it removed, though.
I think that, yeah, there's a problem. Maybe we should have, well, this is not in any way a solution, just commenting the fact that, yeah, probably GitHub should have leave a bit more choice to the reviewer, meaning I want this PR to be approved like forever, or I know that the next changes will require some logic change. And so I'd like for any change to dismiss what I approved, or meaning I can see as I wrote in Slack, it's a fail-safe where you approve something, the PR user changes the PR itself, and another maintainer sees it, approved, and merges it. Obviously, this means it doesn't mean you have to not trust the next maintainer that comes and merge it, and doesn't notice that change that has not been reviewed. But still, we are human, meaning we might lose again the fact that PR has been updated and the approve was prior that update. Obviously, it can also happen that the original reviewer does not correctly look into the PR itself. But yeah, I mean, these are corner cases.
I can't tell which way you're arguing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. Yeah, I like that feature. I would actually. There's also another one that I would enable, but it's not good right now. Actually, it's at least the kind of configuration that GitHub gives us.
Okay, I'm going to write down that you like this feature.
Yeah, count me in.
I just want to say, for external contributors, it doesn't matter because they don't have commit rights. For people who are core contributors who contribute a lot, like the common case for why this causes friction is like if if we've already gone through a few rounds of reviews and we got to a point where you're like, yeah, this looks good to me, just like fix the spelling error right here, that I have to, GitHub forces you to then look at it again. when there's no reason for you to, I can just, fix your nits and submit the code.
But
And
I mean,
they'll submit the code correctly. And
I would counter sort of point by like, how hard is it to get another sign off? My own experience with osquery so far is that it's relatively easy. Like at this point in our world, it's relatively easy to get a future sign off. The bigger pain point is that CI takes a long time, right? Like so I don't know. I might be wrong. I'm not contributing as much right now.
I don't know, if the person reviewing your code only does reviews once a day or whatever, then you're in for another 24 hours. Like, right? It's like if Stefano and Alessandro are reviewing each other's code, like I'm sure there's some level of trust of like, yes, it's fine for you to merge this after you address these 3 issues or whatever. Like, I don't know.
It doesn't apply to us because even though we may review each other's code, we always wait for another one outside to review and approve. Usually when I see that a PR is changed, if I see that like Teddy already approved it before, and I can also verify that it wasn't changed too much, I just reapprove it again because I trust the initial reviewer. Of course, if it is, if the change is huge because it is rebased, then maybe I defer it again to the original reviewer or do a good second pass on it.
Yeah, I want just to try a brief take. What I was trying to say previously, beyond me agreeing with that feature, is what I think is the reason for it existing. What it does, why it's there. Meaning again, probably it's done for bigger projects where there are many more maintainers. And while yes, there is trust, again, still it's possible that someone make a changes to OPR, and that change is not reviewed by the new maintainer that merges that PR, which have been previously approved. This is the case where that option is disabled. So maintainer 1 approves the PR, user changes, maintainer 2 sees that the PR is approved and just merges it without checking the change. Obviously, yeah. Probably, and again, I still prefer to have it, but I also know that right now we are not many maintainers, and we are trusted. We are doing good work. So,
who requested this? Was it Ted?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would tend to say that this is the kind of thing that should probably become an issue for further discussion if it's a thing. It doesn't sound like there isn't clearly unanimous consent on this, so it's probably the kind of thing that should get discussed in an issue and noodled on, and at some point we could like vote or something. I'd love to hear more if people actually find it as impeding their progress. In like a really material way, I definitely want to hear about that.
So I made a comment in the Slack, but I said that, I guess I'm with Stefano on this. I think it's necessary. It's annoying, perhaps, but the annoyance is probably, it's, relative to the size of the commit that blocks your PR. So if the commit that blocked your PR is large, or that invalidated your review is large, then you should be reviewing it again. And if it's small, then it's a small thing for you to say, oh, that's just a small nit. I reviewed it again.
I feel like this maybe points to something about we should make it easy for people to get updated reviews. And I don't think I've seen the like 1 or 2 times I've mentioned something on core of like, hey, can someone review this tiny PR? I think it's been fine. So maybe I would just encourage people, like if they're stuck in that loop, just ping the broader group of folks. And
yeah.
okay, and the tailing item here is build infra. And I think Teddy added this, and I'm just going to read it. CPAC seems like the way to go for building packages. One remaining issue, macOS package ID, and we have a way forward there. If we are aligned, then we can remove the old scripts after CPAC is confirmed as working.
I can quickly give a bit more context. There was an issue where he had tried better tried CPAC, and he found some issues on macOS not generating the identifier we want, some issues in generating the byte packages. But actually, we found a solution for that. Some of those looks like workaround, but there are solutions open on the CPAC repository. One specifically, again, the macOS package D. There's no fix open in CPAC in CPAC repository, but we can use a workaround and then propose a fix upstream. And in general, the discussion was, again, do we want to keep CPAC? Do we want to substitute it with something else? Well, we think that we at Little Bits, but also Ted, we think that CPAC. The good thing about CPAC is that it doesn't, beyond other things, it doesn't bring in other dependencies. So there was a talk about reintroducing FPM or using something else. In general, FPM requires Ruby. Something else might require something else that can be difficult to bring in on old platform and makes difficult to use build osquery there. And yeah, then you have a lot of friction and compatibility issues. Also, I think one of the concern was we want to have a simple binary target Z with all with only the binaries, and we can already do that. It has been added in the docs, in the documentation, how to do it. I don't know if we have
an issue to track it.
We have other, sorry, to track what specifically?
To enable the tarball generation, to document it.
I know. Sorry, I did not explain myself. It's already documented. Actually, Teddy made a PR.
Oh, nice.
Which has been merged. Yep.
Does that mean we're generating tarballs as build artifacts now?
We can do that. It was always it was always possible. Meaning you just have to set a variable when configuring during CMake configuration. So just have to say packaging system tgit set. Yeah.
I'm strongly in favor of us generating tarballs or zip files, whatever, of the various things, because, like, to be blunt, I have very little interest in compiling osquery, but I have a strong interest in building my own packages for it. So, my ability to, like, the way I get the official Windows osquery releases is via some incredibly disgusting pipeline of, like, assuming where Chocolatey stores them and then ripping them out of the Chocolatey package. Like, this is terrible. I think as a software project, we should ship the software that we have, not just, weird third-party installers.
Yeah, we should enable by default, and maybe start uploading them on the release page.
Yeah, we should upload them on the release page.
I would say that, well, yeah, we should generate all of them. Or, yeah.
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 The other thing I see in this agenda item is that we should remove the old scripts after CPAC is confirmed and working. And I am, though CPAC is certainly not my preferred route, I am 100% behind the idea that we should only have one packaging system in the repository. Do you have any sense of what we need to do to get there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question because
do you have any sense of what we need to do to confirm that CPAC is working as desired so that we can remove the old things?
Well, the old things were not working anymore. Teddy has fixed them, and I don't know if they have emerged already. We can certainly open a ticket and diff the packages as they were generated before and how they are generated now to make sure everything is in order. Seems like the only open issues are tracked, like the identifier on macOS. What do you think, Stefano?
So yeah, I was trying to find the issues actually, because this is what Teddy was actually doing. So there is an issue called CPAC inconsistencies, and yeah, some of those issues have been split between that CPAC inconsistencies and the build sign pipeline issue, which I'm trying to find. But anyway, he has listed there all that misses from CPAC or that it's different. Maybe we have to look better into MSI, because I still
pending
see
issues are 5769.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Correct. And if you look there, it seems. Yeah, there are a few things that misses. Meaning, again, the bug version of packages, missing license or homepage. Actually, the homepage there have been a PR that fixed that. The license itself is just adding a file between the other files that are installed together with the deb package. So really, the real issue right now is the one with macOS packaging. Though again, I propose, since you can decide which product build and package build command to use, you can interpose a script, which simply changes, ideally changes the identifier to something we want, and then we keep it just this temporarily until we maybe ship something upstream, and so that we can actually configure it through CPAC.
Do we even know how many end users would be broken if we just changed that bundle identifier? Like, how many people do you think actually whitelist com Facebook osquery?
Honestly,
everybody who auto imports it and whose tools rely on the package identifier. It really depends on how they're pushing it out to macOS, because it's going to be a different like for package managers, it's going to be a different product now, not a different version of the same product. So I don't know. I mean, technically, it won't. We're not changing directories and stuff. So like, as long as the package manager decides to install it, like it'll just override the previous one. But yeah, it's just undefined behavior because it's the unique identifier for the product.
So yeah, I was thinking too. It may give issues to upgrading, basically, because yeah, you don't know anymore that there's a previous version that might have collision with the new version if the identifier changes.
I don't think OSX actually tracks anything like that. It's more of an issue in how people internally manage tooling, right? Like you could imagine tooling that said, oh, give me all the packages installed, and it like looks for the bundle identifier com Facebook OS query. And if that's not present, it tries to install it. So you could imagine a feedback loop right there. But like OSX is very, very weak package management. It's not like devs. It's not like it's going to say, hey, this is a conflict here.
Yeah, it's not gonna. It's just gonna write a file to some text file somewhere and say that I installed this receipt. Here's a receipt for what I installed, and that's all.
Okay, so
Let's write a package manager.
No.
no.
Please don't.
We'll call it pack manager.
All right, guys. I got another meeting in 3 minutes.
Same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking. I'll finish typing up these notes and put them up as a PR.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.